Pokémon, I became a principal and hired Liu Bo as a teacher. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251 I Choose the Power of Ice. This room seems to be a treasure trove of endless possibilities. Suddenly, a breeze blew by, and the crystals in the room began to emit harmonious music, as if they were singing the praises of this magical land. Kong Xian and Yuang were infected by the music, and their hearts resonated with these crystals. A soft voice sounded, as if the guardian of the room was singing the praises of this space. Welcome to the Garden of Elements, brave men. This is the place in the castle that contains the power of elements. You can choose an element and obtain it. The gift of Kong Xian and Yuang looked at each other, both understanding that this was an important choice. Kong Xian thought for a moment and said, I choose the power of ice. Cold ice crystals seem to give me wisdom and calmness. Yuang also made a choice. I choose the power of thunder. Sparks flashing thunder crystals can give me powerful energy. The crystals on the crystal pillar began to emit more intense light, and then flew towards Kong Xian and Yuang respectively, integrating into their bodies. The two felt a powerful force pouring into their hearts, and their eyes flashed with the elemental Lucas. The voice of the Garden of Elements sounded again. You have received the gifts of the elements, and now you can use them to protect the Pokémon Academy. Go forward, brave men, your mission is not yet complete. Kong Xian and Yuang nodded, looking gratefully at the Garden of Elements. They know that the elemental power contained in this room will be their powerful assistant and help them face the challenges of the future. After leaving the Garden of Elements, Kong Xian and Yuang continued to move forward, knowing that the fate of the Pokémon Academy was waiting for them to change. The passage extends again, and the secrets of the castle are still waiting for their exploration. The passage stretches, and the secret of the castle is still waiting in the darkness for Kong Xian and Yuang to explore. They moved forward, taking every step carefully, searching their surroundings vigilantly. The wall of the passage is still that piece of blue crystal, emitting a faint light, illuminating the journey ahead. Suddenly, they entered a room that was completely different from the previous Garden of Elements. There was a mysterious atmosphere filling the room, and the floor was covered with ancient runes, emitting a faint light. There is a huge stone platform in the center of the room, with an ancient book placed on it. Kong Xian and Yuang approached the stone platform and looked at the book carefully. The cover of the book is inlaid with a bright sapphire, which exudes an alluring light. The pages were filled with ancient texts. Kong Xian stared at these texts and felt that they contained endless wisdom. Yuang muttered softly, this book looks very important, Dean. Maybe it contains the history and secrets of the castle. Kong Xian nodded and lightly touched the cover of the book. Suddenly, a blue light emitted from sapphire, enveloping them. They, Hao, felt that their thinking was guided by a powerful force and began to understand the contents of the books. The books record the history of the castle and an existence known as the Star Guardian. The Star Guardian is the guardian of the castle, possessing endless wisdom and power. He once helped humans and Pokémon and protected the peace of this land. However, the Star Guardian has disappeared for many years, leaving behind his power and knowledge. Period. Chapter 252 The entire Yanhuang continent. This book is his relic, and only those chosen can understand and master its contents. Kong Xian and Yuang fell into deep thought. The Star Guardian's power and knowledge may be the key to their mission, but they also know that understanding and mastering these things is not easy. Suddenly, the light in the book gradually dissipated, and Kong Xian and Yuang returned to the real world. They looked at each other and saw the determination in each other's eyes. Kong Xian said, this book is a wealth. It contains the power and knowledge of the Star Guardians. We must study hard and master these things in order to better protect the Pokémon Academy and the entire Yanhuang continent. Yuang nodded and said firmly, yes, Dean. We will never live up to the expectations of the Star Guardian, and we will do our best to learn and pass on his 043 legacy. They decided to take the book back to Pokémon Academy to study it with other students and mentors to better understand and harness its power. This is a step forward for them and a sign of respect and commitment to the Star Guardian. Soon, Kong Xian and Yuang left a mysterious room, and the books were safely placed among the Dean's ministers. They knew that learning and mastering the power and knowledge of the Star Guardians would be a long and arduous task. The passage that continues forward still stretches straight and gradually becomes darker. The crystal light on the wall also seemed dim, as if to remind them that the road ahead was becoming more and more difficult. Kong Xian looked up at the end of the passage with firm eyes. He knew that there were more secrets waiting for them to explore ahead. Suddenly, they heard a faint sound, like melodious music floating in the air. They followed the direction of the sound and soon came to a spacious rotunda. There is a huge crystal platform in the center of the hall. On the crystal platform is an ancient longsword that shines with blue light. Yuang's eyes lit up, and she said to Kong Xian, "Dean, that longsword looks very special. The light it emits seems to be calling us." Kong Xian nodded slightly, and the two of them approached the crystal stage and carefully observed the longsword. The blade of the longsword is made of crystal, beef, and the hilt is inlaid with a bright sapphire. The light emitted by the gem is the source of the hall. The hilt of the sword was engraved with ancient runes, and Kong Xian stared at the runes, trying to understand their meaning. Suddenly, a mysterious voice sounded in the hall. "Brave men, welcome to your arrival. This longsword is called Star Judgment. It is the weapon of the Star Guardian and was once used to protect the peace of Yanhuang continent." Kong Xian and Yu Ying couldn't help but exchange expressions of surprise. They didn't expect that this long sword would have such a close connection with the Star Guardian. The mysterious voice continued, "Star Judgment contains the will and power of the Star Guardian, and only the chosen brave can master it. Now, you will accept the test of the Star Judgment. If you are deemed worthy, this sword will become your weapon to help you complete your mission." Kong Xian and Yuang exchanged firm glances, and they decided to accept this test. The mysterious voice continued, "The Star Judgment will test your courage and wisdom. You need to pass a series of challenges to prove your qualifications." Chapter 253 The Day of Challenge. The words fell. A huge phantom suddenly appeared in the hall, revealing a huge flaming phoenix. The wings of the phoenix are burning with fire. It seems to be the guardian of the Star Judgment and is ready to challenge Kong Xian and Yu Ying. Kong Xian clenched his fists, knowing that this would be a big test. He turned to look at Yu Ying and said, "We must work together to overcome this challenge." Yu Ying nodded in agreement. She was ready and said with confidence, "Yes, Dean. Let us face the test of the Star Judgment together." The flaming phoenix let out a challenging cry, with wings spread like a sea of fire, and rushed towards them. Kong Xian and Yu Ying quickly evaded, and their tacit cooperation allowed them to flexibly avoid Feng Wang's attack. The phoenix continued to release blazing flames, burning everything in the hall. Kong Xian and Yu Ying continued to dodge, and their bodies gradually adapted to Phoenix's attack mode and began to look for opportunities to counterattack. Kong Xian condensed the power of ice, poured it into his hands, and then waved the Star Judgment, shooting a cold sword energy at Phoenix. The sword energy hit the Phoenix's wing feathers, freezing part of the fire and making it lose its balance. Yu Ying released the power of thunder, and a thunder shock hit Phoenix's body, causing an explosion. The Phoenix screamed in pain, but it was not defeated, but became more violent. The ferocity of the flame phoenix forced Kong Xian and Yu Ying to avoid its attacks even more carefully. The flames in the hall had burned some of the crystal tables until sparks sputtered out, and the scene became increasingly chaotic. However, their determination has not wavered, and they know that only by passing this test can they master the power of the Star Judgment. Kong Xian seized the opportunity, swung his sword again, and fired a cold sword energy. This time, he aimed at the phoenix's head, hoping to freeze its heart of fire. The sword energy accurately hit the target. The phoenix let out a deafening scream, and the burning of the flame was obviously suppressed. Meanwhile, Moon Shadow continued to unleash the power of thunder, her attacks hitting Phoenix from different directions. A flash of thunder shock hit the Phoenix's wingtip, triggering a series of embers that made it painful. Phoenix becomes more powerful, but also more vulnerable. "Please give me flowers." Kong Xian and Yuang cooperated with each other tacitly, and their attacks became more and more accurate, forcing Feng Huang into trouble. However, the Phoenix did not intend to surrender. It let out a fiery roar and the entire hall was instantly engulfed in flames. Kong Xian and Yuang tightly grasped the Star Judgment and condensed the power of ice and thunder to resist the flames as much as possible. The temperature in the hall rose sharply, and their foreheads were soaked with sweat, but they remained unwavering. The Phoenix's flames finally reached their peak, forming a blazing fire dragon. This fire dragon was extremely ferocious, attacking Kong Xian and Yuang, burning everything down. At the critical moment, Kong Xian and Yu Ying's power reached its peak. They released the ultimate power of ice and thunder, forming a powerful energy barrier to keep the fire dragon out. There was silence in the hall. Kong Xian and Yuang's foreheads were covered with sweat, and their bodies were weak from consuming too much strength. However, their eyes still shone with determination. Period. Chapter 254 More than just a weapon. The mysterious voice sounded again. You have passed the test, and the Star Judgment will now become your weapon. It will help you complete your mission and defend the Pokémon Academy in Yanhuan Continent. The sapphire of Star Judgment flashed with intense light, and then slowly flew towards Kong Xian. He stretched out his hand to catch the sword and felt the powerful power contained in it. His eyes were as firm as a rock. Yuang also stretched out her 783 hand to take over part of the Star Judgment, her eyes filled with pride and emotion. This sword is not only a weapon, but also a legacy of the Star Guardians, who will continue his mission. The flames in the hall gradually extinguished, the crystal platform reappeared, and the hall returned to tranquility. Kong Xian and Yuang glanced at each other, knowing that this was just the beginning, and they had more challenges waiting for them. Suddenly, the ground in the hall began to tremble, and bright gems emerged from the ground. These gems emit colorful light, swirling around Kong Xian and the moon shadow. The mysterious voice sounded again. These gems are the eyes of the Star Guardian. They will provide you with guidance and strength. Accept them, brave men. Kong Xian and Yu Ying reached out to catch the Star Guardian eyes, which emitted warm light and enveloped Kong Xian and Yu Ying. The light of the gems illuminated the entire hall, and Kong Xian and Yuang felt a warm power pass through them to their hearts. These gems seem to be the present of the Star Guardians, a kind of guidance and blessing, which strengthens their determination to move forward. These gems are really magical, Yuang said softly. She held the eye of the Star Guardian tightly and felt the energy contained in it. Kong Xian nodded and felt the power transmitted by the gem. He said, "We must cherish this present, it will help us better fulfill our mission." The mysterious voice sounded again. Brave men, you have passed the test of the Star Judgment, but there are still many challenges waiting for you ahead. Now, you need to go to the north of Yanhuan Continent, where there is an ancient temple. Because it contains the wisdom and power of the Star Guardian. Kong Xian and Yuang exchanged glances, and they understood that going to the temple was their next mission. They must obtain more knowledge and power in order to defend the Pokémon Academy and the entire Yanhuan Continent. The temple's in the north. How do we get there? Yuang asked. A mysterious voice replied, you can go to the north through the teleportation array in Pokémon Forest. The teleportation array is located deep in Pokémon Forest, but there are some challenges to overcome to get there. Once you arrive in Pokémon Forest, you will receive further guidance. Kong Xian and Yuang nodded to express their understanding. They know that every step is a test, but they are ready. The door to the hall opened again, and the passage extended forward. 1.4 Kong Xian and Yu Ying walked out of the hall, and the door behind them slowly closed. They stood at the beginning of the passage, staring at the journey ahead. The walls of the passage are inlaid with crystals, emitting a faint light to illuminate their way forward. They began to move forward, every step full of determination and hope. The Pokémon Forest is the region where the Pokémon Academy is located, and it is also one of the oldest forests in Yanhuan Continent. Period. Chapter 255 The Ancient Ruins Left Behind. This forest contains rich Pokémon resources and is also full of various creatures and challenges. Kong Xian and Yuang walked through the forest and felt the tranquility and mystery of nature. The trees are tall, with lush branches and leaves, and sunlight shines on the ground through the gaps in the tree crowns, forming mottled light spots. Dean, do you think there is really a teleportation array in this forest? Yuang asked in a low voice, looking at the surrounding trees as if looking for clues. Kong Xian smiled and nodded. I have confidence, Yuang. According to legend, the teleportation array in the Pokémon Forest is an ancient relic left by Pokémon. Although it is buried by time, we will definitely be able to find it. The two continued walking through an area where colorful flowers that Pokémon loved were blooming. The petals swayed gently in the breeze, emitting beautiful music, as if to welcome their arrival. Suddenly, a group of wild Pokémon jumped out of the trees, their bodies covered with colorful feathers and their eyes full of curiosity. These wild Pokémon seem excited about the arrival of Kong Xian and Yongying. Kong Xian smiled and nodded to them, and then communicated with them in a special language. The Pokémon sang sweetly in response to Kong Xian's words. This method of communication can only be used by the director of the Pokémon Academy, and they convey some information about the teleportation array. They said the teleportation array is in the nearby deep forest, but going there requires passing a trial. Kong Xian translated the message to Yuang. Yuang nodded, and she was ready to face the trial. The Pokémon led Kong Xian and Yuang deeper into the Pokémon Forest, where the trees became older and the environment became more mysterious. In an ancient forest, Kong Xian and Yuang were brought to a huge sacred tree. This sacred tree is tall and ancient. Its bark is covered with ancient runes and exudes a mysterious atmosphere. There is a huge stone door in front of the trunk of the sacred tree, which looks very heavy. In front of the huge stone door stood 2 stone pillars, which were engraved with mysterious runes and exuded an ancient atmosphere. Kong Xian and Yuang stood quietly in front of the sacred tree, feeling the power of this mysterious forest. A mysterious voice sounded again. This stone door is the entrance to the teleportation array, but it is imprisoned by an ancient barrier. To open this door, you need to prove your courage and wisdom. Kong Xian took a deep breath, knowing that this would be a big test. He looked around, trying to find clues. Next to the sacred tree is a huge round stone with intricate patterns carved on it. Perhaps this stone has some clues. Kong Xian walked towards the round stone and carefully observed the pattern on it. The pattern seems to depict a journey in the forest, with various creatures and natural landscapes. Yuang also 743 joined in the observation, and she carefully searched for clues. Her eyes suddenly lit up. She pointed at a Pokémon in the pattern and said, "Dean, look here, this Pokémon's eye seems to be in button." Kong Xian smiled slightly and nodded to praise Yuang's discovery. He reached out and touched the Pokémon's eyes in the pattern, and then a faint vibration came, and the stone door began to slowly open. A road leading to the deep forest was revealed behind the door. Kong Xian and Yuang walked in, and the mysterious voice continued to guide them. This crystal ore is part of the barrier, and it needs to be activated to continue moving forward. The method to activate it is right in front of you. Chapter 256 Guide the Flow of Energy. Kong Xian and Yuang looked at each other, and then turned their attention back to the crystal ore. They approached the ore and found that there were some fine lines on the surface, like a huge maze. "This is a maze," Kong Xian whispered. "We need to find the right path to guide the energy to the core of the crystal ore." Yuang nodded in agreement. She gently placed her hand on the surface of the ore and felt the energy flowing in it. There is an obvious crystal block at the entrance of the maze, which seems to be the source of energy. The two began to search for the correct path in the maze, their fingers lightly touching the surface of the crystal to guide the flow of energy. The lines in the maze are complex and tortuous, requiring careful thinking and exploration. After some hard work, they finally found a path leading to the core of the crystal ore. Energy flows from their fingers to the core, and the crystal ore emits a strong light. The mysterious voice sounded again. "You have succeeded. The energy of the crystal ore has been activated, and you can now move forward." 7. The light emitted by the crystal ore gradually dissipated, and they continued to move forward, crossing the open land and entering the depths of the forest. The trees in the deep forest become older, and the environment becomes more mysterious. A breeze blew by, and leafage made a sweet sound, as if singing in a low voice. They suddenly came to a small stream with crystal clear water and various strange plants growing along its banks. There is a stone bridge in the middle of the stream, leading to the other side. The mysterious voice said, "This stone bridge is the final test. It requires your faith and unity. Cross it together and you can reach the location of the teleportation array." Kong Xian and Yuang looked at each other in tacit understanding again, and then walked towards the stone bridge. They stepped onto the stone bridge and felt a weak resistance, as if trying to test their determination. Step by step, with steady and determined steps, they slowly walked towards the center of the stone bridge. The stream flowed gently under their feet, and the surrounding plants seemed to cheer them on. At the end of the stone bridge, they finally successfully crossed the final test. A warm energy enveloped them, and the teleportation array appeared in front of them. A mysterious voice sounded, "You have passed all the tests. Now, ahead is the teleportation array leading to the northern temple. Enter it and continue your mission." Kong Xian and Yuang held each other's hands, and then walked into the teleportation array. They felt dizzy, and then the surrounding scene began to change rapidly. The next moment, they found themselves in a brand new place, the vestibule of the northern temple, which was the beginning of their next mission. Kong Xian and Yuang came to the vestibule of the northern temple and looked around. His eyes fell on the majestic temple building. The temple is built of huge white stones, with intricate patterns and mysterious symbols carved on the walls. At the top of the temple stands a huge spire, which seems to be a passage leading straight to the sky. The mysterious voice sounded again, "Kings, brave men, the northern temple contains the wisdom and power of the Star Guardian, but it is also full of trials and dangers. You need to go to the depths of the temple to find guidance from the Star Guardian." Kong Xian nodded slightly to express his understanding. They understand that although they have passed a series of tests, The challenges ahead are still arduous. Yang looked at the temple and said, Dean, this temple looks very solemn. We need to be careful. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257, Seeking His Wisdom and Guidance. Kong Xian nodded in agreement. Yes, Yang, we must remain vigilant. But at the same time, we must also respect this sacred land. The two walked towards the entrance of the temple step by step and solemnly stepped on the stone steps. The huge bronze door in front of the door looks extremely heavy and seems to carry countless years of history. When Kong Xian and Yang pushed open the bronze door, they entered the interior of the temple. The interior space of the temple is spacious and magnificent, with a solemn altar placed in the center of the hall, emitting a faint sacred light. The mysterious voice sounded again. Ahead is the altar of the Star Guardian. You can seek his wisdom and guidance here. Kong Xian and Yang walked slowly towards the altar. They knelt on the ground, closed their eyes and began to pray silently. They felt the presence of the Star Guardian, and a warm and solemn power surrounded them. The Star Guardian on the altar is like a huge crystal statue, emitting a soft light. The eyes of the statue seemed to be alive and normal. Watching Kong Xian and Yang Ying, the voice of the Star Guardian resounded through the hall. Kong Xian, the dean of the Evergreen Pokémon Academy, what is your mission? When you and Yang came to my altar? Kong Xian stood up and replied solemnly, Guardian of the Star, we come to seek your wisdom and strength to defend Pokémon Academy in Yanhuan continent. We have passed a series of tests, but, Beeb, the mission ahead is full of challenges. We need your guidance. The Star Guardian's eyes sparkled, as if thinking about Kong Xian's request. After a moment, he said, Brave man, your mission is full of thorns and difficulties, but it is also full of hope. On your way forward, there will be a mysterious old man waiting for you. He is the embodiment of ancient wisdom. This old man will provide you with key information and power, but he will not show up easily. You need to go to the Misty Mountains in the southeastern part of Yanhuan continent and look for his traces there. Kong Xian and Yang listened carefully. They said that the existence of this mysterious old man was crucial to completing the mission. The Star Guardian continued, but to go to the Misty Mountains, you need to pass through another test. Deep in the temple, there is a mysterious labyrinth called the Mystery of Wisdom. Only by solving the puzzles of the labyrinth can you gain general qualifications. Yang whispered to Kong Xian, Dean, we are willing to accept this challenge. Kong Xian nodded and motioned Yang to follow him. They returned to the temple hall, looking for the entrance to the Mystery of Wisdom. Deep in the temple, they found a small door hidden in the wall. The door is engraved with mysterious symbols, seemingly waiting to be unlocked. Kong Xian and Yang began to observe the symbols carefully, trying to find clues. They were immersed in the process of solving the puzzle. Time seemed to become blurred, and their thoughts gradually merged into this mysterious puzzle. Kong Xian and Yang faced the complicated symbols on the wall, trying to solve the Mystery of Wisdom step by step. These symbols are crisscrossed and seem to hide deep meanings, and every step may be a key decision-making point. Yang observed the symbols carefully and whispered to herself, these symbols look like ancient writing and seem to contain wisdom. Kong Xian also fell into deep thought. He carefully studied the arrangement and combination of each symbol. Chapter 258 captures subtle symbolic changes. Kong Xian knew that this maze was not just a battle of intelligence, but might also involve the mysterious knowledge of the Pokémon world. As time went by, they gradually discovered some patterns. There are connections between some symbols, while others may seem irrelevant. They exchanged the clues they observed with each other, trying to find the correct path to the depths of the maze. In the process, their cooperation became more and more tacit. Kong Xian's thinking is meticulous and he can always find key clues from complicated symbols, while Yang's observation is keen and can capture subtle changes in symbols. The two work closely together to gradually make the mystery clear. However, the Mystery of Wisdom will not let them pass easily. Every time they think they've found the right path, the symbols in the maze seem to keep changing, leading them to new puzzles. Kong Xian couldn't help but frown. He felt that the owner of the maze not only possessed wisdom, but also he had a power that transcended time and space. This makes solving puzzles more complex and time-consuming. Yang also felt tired, but her eyes remained firm. She said, Dean, we cannot give up. The master of this maze wants to test our determination and wisdom. We cannot live up to the expectations of the Star Guardians." Kong Xian nodded, and they continued to move forward, constantly solving new puzzles and moving step by step into the depths of the maze. As time passed, they finally arrived at the core area of the maze. There, a solemn statue stands, holding the staff of wisdom with a solemn expression. An ancient text is engraved on the base of the statue: "The door of wisdom, the choice of the wise." Kong Xian and Yuang stared at the statue, knowing that this was their final test. They need to make a wise choice to open the door to the depths of the maze. Kong Xian said softly, "Yuang, we must think carefully. The meaning of this sentence may not be limited to the literal meaning, moon." Shadow nodded, her eyes fixed on the statue's staff of wisdom. She suddenly said, "Dean, maybe we need to make a wise choice, not just choose a path. This stick of wisdom may be the key." Kong Xian's heart brightened, and he understood Yu Ying's meaning. They need to choose to pick up the rod of wisdom rather than just choose the path. "Please give me flowers." The two of them stretched out their hands and touched the staff of wisdom at the same time. At that moment, the statue emitted a dazzling light, and the entire maze seemed to respond to their decision. In the center of the maze, a huge door slowly opened, revealing a path leading to the depths. Kong Xian and Yuang knew that they had passed the test of the mystery of wisdom. They walked into the passage and entered the depths of the maze. The light here is getting dimmer and the mysterious atmosphere is getting richer. They know that a mysterious old man awaits ahead, as well as more challenges and adventures. 0.0 The passages of the maze are constantly winding, like a journey through time and space. They are always alert and ready to face any possible test, but from beginning to end, Kong Xian never thought of giving up. Whether it is for Yanhuang Continent or the Academy, Kong Xian has made up his mind. The moon shadow on the side is even more so. After all, with a dean like Kong Xian as a leader, Yuang even felt that she had nothing to fear no matter what kind of crisis or difficulty it is. In front of Kong Xian, it seems that it can be solved with just a wave of his hand. Period. Chapter 259. Moving forward along the new passage, Kong Xian and Yuang continue deep into the maze. The air here is so solemn that it can be cut, and the light gradually becomes thinner, giving people an unfathomable feeling. "Dean, do you think this place is related to the mysterious place described in the Evergreen Pokémon Academy's library?" Yuang asked slightly nervously. Kong Xian nodded slightly, with a glimmer of light in his eyes. "It is possible that the atmosphere here is very similar to those ancient legends 580. But we should be more cautious. After all, this is uncharted territory." The two continued to move forward along the winding passage, and every step seemed to be going deep into the heart of the maze. Finally, they came to a room covered with ancient runes. There is a huge stone platform in the center, with an object similar to a crystal ball inlaid on it. Yuang was attracted by this mysterious object. She took a closer look and found that there seemed to be flowing patterns in the crystal ball. "What is this?" she asked curiously. Kong Xian walked to Yuang and stared at the crystal ball. "I'm not sure, but I feel like it has a strong Pokémon power. Very unusual." Yuang frowned. "Is this a new puzzle left to us by the master of the maze?" Kong Xian shook his head slowly. "Not necessarily. Maybe this is a test, or, before he finished speaking, the light in the room suddenly dimmed, and a bright light shot out from the crystal ball, pointing directly at Kong Xian and Yuang. The two were immediately alert, and Kong Xian quickly summoned his Pokémon, a fire Pokémon that looked like a phoenix but was smaller. The fire Pokémon is called Flamuing. It flutters its wings and flies high with a light anti. Not to be outdone, Yuang summoned her own Pokémon, a water Pokémon with great potential. The water Pokémon's name is Dequi. As soon as it appears, it spits out a column of water in an attempt to block the beam. Finally, the bright light was repelled by the combined power of the fire Pokémon and the water Pokémon. Kong Xian breathed a sigh of relief. "Thank you, Yanai. Thank you for your hard work." "Did you?" Yuang nodded and expressed gratitude. "I think we should be more careful now." Kong Xian glanced at the crystal ball seriously. "You are right. The power here seems to be constantly testing us and testing us." Then he turned to Yuang. "I think we haven't found the real core of the maze yet. Are you ready?" Yuang nodded firmly. "Following you, I have never felt afraid." Kong Xian smiled. Then, "Let's move on." They recalled their Pokémon and prepared to leave the room. Just as they were about to reach the door, one wall of the room suddenly cracked, revealing another passage. Kong Xian and Yuang looked at each other and saw the determination in each other's eyes. Without any unnecessary words, they walked into the new passage together, ready to face any test that might come next. Kong Xian and Yuang walked along the new passage. The walls on both sides were engraved with strange conversions, which looked ancient and mysterious. After walking for a while, the passage began to become narrower and narrower, causing the two of them to slow down. Yuang looked around with a slightly troubled look. This seems to be completely different from the area just now. It feels more ancient. Kong Xian nodded in agreement. Yes, I feel the same way. It's like some kind of power that has been sealed for thousands of years. After a while, 10 open areas appeared at the end of the passage. Period. Chapter 260. To prevent it from getting out of control. There, an altar-like place appeared in front of them. The altar is composed of strange rocks, which emit a slight blue light, as if it has a magical atmosphere. The most eye-catching thing is that the altar is built on 4 stone platforms in the center, each with a groove of different shapes, as if to place some gems. Kong Xian looked at the 4 grooves nervously, and then looked down at the 4 elemental gems in his hand. What do you think of these grooves? Yuang nodded. It is just for these 4 gems. The two exchanged a confirming look, and Yuang plucked up the courage to say, Dean, maybe this is the place we are looking for, the key to integrating the 4 gems into one. Kong Xian took a deep breath. Maybe. But we don't know the 14 consequences. We must be careful before putting gems in. Yuang remained determined. But aren't we here just to find the answer? Seeing Yuang being so determined, Kong Xian also put down his doubts. You are right. Now that we have reached this point, there is no way out. He cautiously walked to the stone platform and placed 4 elemental gems into the grooves. As soon as the last piece was put in, a strong light pillar suddenly appeared in the center of the altar. The 4 colors of gold, wood, water and fire were intertwined and illuminated the entire place. The two of them watched this strange scene nervously. Suddenly, a huge totem appeared in the pillar of light. The totem was full of mystery and ancient aura, like a symbol of some kind of god. Yuang looked at the totem in surprise. This is... Kong Xian's eyes also flashed with shock. This is the Pokémon spell totem in the ancient legend of Yanhuang continent. Among the totems, a spell began to emerge, shining with mysterious light. Kong Xian stared quickly, trying to identify and remember it. Yuang looked at Kong Xian. Dean, this spell. Kong Xian pondered for a moment. I think this is the key spell to merge the 4 elemental gems. It's just that using this spell may require huge Pokémon power. Yuang clenched her fists. No matter what, we have to try. Kong Xian nodded. I will try to summon my Pokémon and use this spell together. But you must protect yourself. If anything unexpected happens, you must get out of here. 17. Yuang looked at Kong Xian firmly. Dean, I will accompany you until the end. The two looked at each other deeply for a moment, then stood side by side and prepared to start this attempt. The voices of Kong Xian and Yuang echoed on the altar, like ancient chants, converging into powerful Pokémon force. Their Pokémon partners, Flamuing and Dicky, are also fully committed, standing beside their masters to protect them. The 220 light beam in the center of the altar became more and more brilliant, and the 4 elemental gems began to rotate slowly, driven by power, like 4 Pokémon dancers. There is a wonderful resonance between the 4 elements of gold, wood, water and fire, as if they are 10 parts of one body. Kong Xian and Yuang concentrated on reading the spell aloud. Their voices gradually merged into the light pillar, blending with the power of the elements to create an unprecedented energy fluctuation. Yanai and Ito did not show any weakness. Their bodies gradually became transparent, integrated into the light pillar, and became part of the spell. Their presence stabilizes the power of the spell and prevents it from getting out of control. Period. Chapter 261. Dissolved into invisibility. At this moment, Kong Xian felt the peak of Pokémon's power, contest condition, and established a profound connection between his mind and Pokémon. The same is true for Yuang. Her eyes flashed with firm determination, and she knew this was a decisive moment. The rhythm of the spell became faster and faster, and the light of the light pillar became more and more dazzling. Kong Xian and Yuang could feel that they were touching an absolute power, a power that could change the world. Suddenly, the light beam emitted a dazzling white light, illuminating the entire altar. The voices of Kong Xian and Yuang merged into one, and the spell reached its climax. Gather the 4 elements, become endless, merge into one, and have ultimate power. With the completion of the spell, the 4 elemental gems finally merged into one dazzling gem. This gem contains the power of the 4 elements of gold, wood, water and fire, making it like a priceless treasure. Kong Xian and Yu Ying felt a powerful Pokemon power emanating from the gem and pouring into their bodies. Their bodies were surrounded by this force, as if they were integrated into the embrace of nature. Yan and Dido returned to their master from the light pillar. Their postures became more majestic, and their eyes were full of pride. They know that this moment is a glorious moment created by them together. Kong Xian and Yu Ying hold this multi-element gem in their hands and can feel its infinite potential. A profound realization emerged in their hearts, and they understood that this gem would change the fate of Yanheron continent. Then, the gem emits a warm light, slowly lifting them up. They seem to be floating in the air, connected to the universe, and integrated with the power of Pokemon. At this moment, Kong Xian and Yu Ying felt infinite wisdom. They saw the future of Yanheron continent, the harmonious coexistence of Pokemon and humans, and the future of peace and prosperity. The light gradually weakened, slowly lowering them back to the altar. Their eyes were full of emotion and gratitude. They knew that they had completed a great mission. Kong Xian touched the gem and felt the power it contained. He smiled and said to Yu Ying, "This gem will become the precious wealth of Yanheron continent, and it will bring peace and prosperity." And at this moment, Kong Xian and Yu Ying were still immersed in the light of the spell they had just completed, and were unprepared to be attracted by a strange aura. Suddenly, the altar's defense mechanism was triggered, and dozens of dark shadow Pokemon poured out from all directions, their eyes cold and fierce. "Quick, protect the gem!" Kong Xian shouted loudly, and at the same time, he and Yu Ying quickly stood on both sides of the gem, holding the synthetic multi-element gem tightly. Yan and Dido also reacted immediately. They turned into flames and water, surrounding their master, ready to meet this sudden challenge. There are many shadow Pokemon, and they are approaching at extremely fast speeds, their sharp claws flashing with cold light, ready to seize this gem. Kong Xian and Zhaojin's Ying prepare for the battle, knowing that this battle will determine the fate of the gems. A fierce battle broke out immediately. Flaming and Dido met the shadow Pokemon that rushed over first. The intertwining of fire and water formed a blazing battlefield. Flaming wings flutter high, fire a searing shot from the air, burning like a dragon, burning several shadow Pokemon into nothingness. Dequi controls the element of water, turning it into water columns and water bombs to neutralize the attacks of shadow Pokemon. Period. Chapter 262. Dealing with this gem. Its attacks are as agile as flowing water, leaving the enemy helpless. Kong Xian and Yu Ying worked closely together, and their Pokemon powers were fully utilized, and they cooperated tacitly. The elemental gem in Kong Xian's hand emits bright light. He stares ahead and uses Pokemon power to drive a force of metal, wood, water, and fire to form a powerful shield to resist the attack of shadow Pokemon. Yu Ying stood next to Kong Xian, her Pokemon Dequi swimming nimbly around her, providing her with protection. Yu Ying's eyes were firm. She used her mind to communicate with Dido, and cooperated with Kong Xian's defense to force the shadow Pokemon back. Again and again the shadow Pokemon tried every means to seize the gem, but Kong Xian and Yu Ying's defense was rock solid. Their eyes were full of determination, and they knew that this gem was crucial to the future of Yanheron continent. The battle lasted for a while, with Yan and Dido showing amazing fighting power. Their fire and water cooperated with each other, forcing the shadow Pokemon to a desperate situation. One by one, Flaming shoots out scorching flames, turning one shadow Pokemon into ashes, while Ripu strikes another with the power of water, dissolving it into water droplets. Eventually, at the insistence of Kong Xian and Yu Ying, the number of shadow Pokemon gradually decreased. Their formation began to become chaotic and there was no longer an organized attack. Flaming and Dido took advantage of the momentum to launch a final offensive, defeating the remaining shadow Pokemon. Kong Xian and Yu Ying breathed a sigh of relief, and they felt a wave of exhaustion rushing into their hearts. Their Pokemon partners were no exception, and their power was drained quite a bit. But the sight in front of them made them happy. The multi-element gems were still unharmed and glowing in their hands. "We succeeded," Moonshadow said breathlessly. Kong Xian nodded and looked at the multi-element gem with a solemn expression. He knew that this gem represented infinite possibilities and would bring huge changes to the future of Yanheron Continent Zero. Suddenly, the gem emits a powerful wave of energy, surrounding Kong Xian and Yu Ying. They felt a warm power flow into their bodies, making their fatigue disappear quickly, beta, and replaced by strong vitality. "Is this the energy of the gem?" Yu Ying asked doubtfully. Kong Xian smiled and nodded. Yes, this gem contains the power of multiple elements. In the night, the stone slab of the altar was still slightly warm, as if to remember the fierce battle just now. The shimmer of the gem and the starlight reflected each other. Kong Xian held the gem and was deep in thought. The multi-element energy in the gem surges from time to time, as if it is alive. Kong Xian. Yuang gently broke the silence, her brows furrowed, her eyes full of worry. Do you think we made a wrong decision? This gem, if it falls into the hands of malicious people, I'm worried. Kong Xian looked up at her and smiled slightly. Yuang, are you worried that this gem will cause a bigger crisis? Yuang nodded. There is no record of such a powerful elemental gem in the history of Pokémon. The power it contains is beyond our imagination before. And great power is always accompanied by huge captivate and risks. Yes. Kong Xian held the gem tightly, but we cannot be trapped by fear. Instead, we should explore its possibilities, for the future of the mainland and for the people we love. Yuang was silent for a moment. Then, we should first bring the gem back to the Evergreen Pokemon Academy, where there are the top Pokemon scholars, and they will know how to deal with this gem. Chapter 263. Follow Yuang's advice. Kong Xian nodded and decided to follow Yuang's suggestion. The two began to pack their equipment and prepare to leave the altar. Flame Wing and Drink Kui followed closely behind, and despite a fierce battle, they were still full of vitality walking out of the altar. The moon was dark and the wind was high, and the ancient maze looked even more weird and quiet in the night. The two of them carefully retraced their previous route, and were very alert along the way, for fear of an ambush or unexpected situation. Suddenly, Dido gave Growl a slight warning, and Kong Xian and Yuang immediately prepared to fight. However, what appeared in front of them was a small fire Pokemon. It looked curiously at the two invaders who suddenly appeared. Yuang chuckled. It seems that it was also alarmed by the sound of our fighting. Kong Xian also smiled. Well, it's time to restore this ancient maze to the tranquility it deserves. The two continued to move forward, with a little fire Pokemon following them curiously, playing along the way, as if to see them off. After walking for a while, they finally arrived at the entrance of the maze. A faint dawn has begun to appear on the horizon, and a new day is coming. The early morning light shone slightly, and the plains of Yanhuang continent were shrouded in a layer of light golden lucas. The dewdrops shone on the grass tips, reflecting the light of the creek not far away, making it look peaceful and beautiful. Kong Xian and Yuang were walking on the path. Birds were chirping crisply everywhere, Flame Wings and Diddy Kui were flying lightly above their heads, and the air was filled with fresh breath. In this moment of tranquility, no one thought that the crisis was quietly approaching. The Evergreen Pokemon Academy is not far ahead. You can reach it by walking for a while. Yuang pointed forward and said softly. Just as the two were delighted that they were about to complete their mission, a cold voice suddenly broke the tranquility. Kong Xian, do you really think you can escape from me with the 4 element gems? The two looked around warily and saw 3 figures walking out of the woods in the distance. They exude a strong Pokemon energy, and they are obviously not ordinary practitioners. The leader was a young man with long flowing hair and a sinister light shining in his eyes. Kong Xian held the gem tightly and looked serious. Who are you? Why do you want to stop us? The young man sneered. I am Yehan, and I have been coveting the power of this gem for a long time. Mr. Kong, if you leave the gem for me, I can let you live, please. Give me flowers. Yuang frowned slightly. Yehan, I have heard of you. You are the guy who pursues power at all costs. Do you think we will give up? Yehan sneered. The two men behind him had already summoned their Pokemon. One was the wind-winged dragon with the wind attribute, and the other was the stone-skinned bear with the earth attribute. They are fierce and ready to attack at any time. Zero Yuang, we can't let the gems fall into their hands. Kong Xian whispered, and at the same time, he summoned his Pokemon, a thunderbird with a thunder attribute. Yehan looked at Kong Xian with a hint of pride in his eyes. Kong Xian, although you are the dean of the Evergreen Pokemon Academy, do you think you can stop us on your own? Kong Xian looked at Yehan calmly. Yehan, do you think the 2 men behind you are your chance of winning? As soon as she finished speaking, Yuang summoned her Pokemon, a water-type crystal dragon. Yehan frowned. Yuang, you actually mastered such a powerful Pokemon. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264 Ready to attack at any time. The two sides faced off for a moment, and the atmosphere around them was extremely tense. Yanai and Dido also flew to Kong Xian and Yuang respectively. They were ready to attack at any time. Suddenly, Yihan ordered, "Go up." At the same time, Kong Xian also ordered, "Attack everyone." The Pokémon started a fierce battle one after another. Thunderbird released a strong electro web, which collided with a Wind-Winged Dragon's wind blade, causing a strong explosion. Dido 853 fired an arrow of cold ice and tried to freeze the stone-skinned bear, but the stone-skinned bear's strong skin was not greatly affected. Flame Wing and Crystal Dragon teamed up to attack Yehun's two men. Flame Wing released a whirlwind of fire, while Crystal Dragon released a breath of ice. Kong Xian and Yuang confronted Yihan. The collision of the three Pokémon's powers caused a huge explosion. The surrounding grass was scorched, and deep marks were left on the path. Yihan, why are you pursuing such power? Kong Xian asked breathlessly. Yehun sneered, "For power. This is the reality of this world." In the fierce collision of the battle, flames and water ice, thunder and lightning and wind blades intertwined with each other, and the scene was extremely fierce. The confrontation between Yihan and Kong Xian was even more intense. Their Pokémon energies continued to collide, and the surrounding ground trembled due to this strong power fluctuation. Yuang followed closely behind, and her Crystal Dragon fought fiercely with a Wind-Winged Dragon with the power of water. The Crystal Dragon's body was as transparent as crystal normal, shining brightly in the sun, forming a spectacular formation with the Wind-Winged Dragon's wind blade. The collision stirred up water mist and whirlwind all over the sky. The confrontation between Kong Xian and Yehun is like the eruption of volcano normal. The two Pokémon's powers collide and emitted dazzling light. Kong Xian's Thunderbird releases electricity, but Yihan's Pokémon exudes a dark aura, as if it can swallow everything. Two powerful forces intertwined, forming a chaotic battlefield. Kong Xian, you will never understand my coveted pursuit of power, Yihan said through gritted teeth, his eyes full of fanaticism. Kong Xian responded calmly, "Yihan, power is not everything, it cannot represent everything. Only with a strong heart and wisdom can you truly master power." Their conversation was accompanied by the roar of the Pokémon battle, which seemed to turn into sound waves reverberating in the air. The surrounding vegetation was affected by the battle, and it was a withered scene. The battle between the Crystal Dragon and the Wind-Winged Dragon is also in full swing. Yuang gritted her teeth, knowing that she could not let the Wind-Winged Dragon gain the upper hand, otherwise the situation would be even more dangerous. She mobilized the power of the Crystal Dragon to release more powerful water energy, condensing the water flow into sharp ice blades, which collided with the wind blades of the Wind-Winged Dragon. "Yuang, we must persist." Kong Xian's voice came, and he was having a final duel with Yihan. Yuang nodded, she deeply understood Kong Xian's intention. She continued to mobilize the power of the Crystal Dragon and launched a fierce contest with the Wind-Winged Dragon. Two Pokémon were fighting in the air, with the elemental power of water and wind 4.9 intertwined, and the scene was extremely intense. Yehun's two men were not idle either. They were engaged in fierce battles with Yanai and Dido respectively. The Wind-Winged Dragon's wind blades continuously attacked the Crystal Dragon, and the Crystal Dragon resisted every attack with the power of water. The Flame Wing and the Wind-Winged Dragon intertwined to create a battlefield of flames and wind blades. The fire burned in the air and the wind blades shuttled through it. Period. Chapter 265 The duel is particularly fierce. The duel between Diddy and the Shippy Bear was also extremely fierce. Diddy continued to release freezing attacks, trying to freeze the Shippy Bear, while the Shippy Bear blocked the freezing attacks with its hard skin. The battle between the two is full of opposition between fire and ice, hardness and softness. The entire battlefield sky is filled with strong Pokémon energy, the light is overflowing, and the scene is spectacular and tense. The duel between Kong Xian and Yihan was particularly fierce. The two Pokémon's powers were intertwined, forming a powerful energy vortex, and the surrounding air was distorted by this power. "Yihan, don't continue." Kong Xian's voice was full of warning. Yihan laughed and said, "Kong Xian, do you think you still have the chance to win? This 4-element gem is already mine." At this moment, a bright light suddenly shot from a distance, like a meteor piercing the night sky. Wherever the light went, it brought extremely powerful Pokémon power, shocking the entire battlefield. Everyone looked up and saw a tall Pokémon, wearing flashing armor and holding a lightsaber, descending from soaring in the sky. This Pokemon's aura is extremely powerful, like a godlike existence. Kong Xian calmed down. The powerful Pokemon that arrived seemed to belong to no one, and there was a faint power to control the 4 elements in its aura. He secretly guessed that this Pokemon might be related to the only secret method of uniting the 4 that he was looking for. Who is your master? The powerful Pokemon looked around, his tone revealing unquestionable authority. Kong Xian took a step forward. I am the president of the Evergreen Pokemon Academy, Kong Xian, not to be outdone. Yihen responded hurriedly. I am Yihen, an explorer pursuing power. The powerful Pokemon nodded slightly, its eyes blazing. In that case, let me see your respective emperors. After speaking, he waved his lightsaber, and a bright beam of light shot directly into the sky. The energy of the Pokemon on the field was instantly chaotic, and everyone felt dizzy. Kong Xian knew this was an excellent opportunity. He said to Yuang, Yuang, summon the crystal dragon and concentrate your firepower on Yihen. Yuang nodded nervously. She gathered all the Pokemon power in her body, and the crystal dragon flew out from behind her, condensing into a huge water column and heading straight towards Yihen. Yihen sneered, and his Pokemon immediately formed a dark energy barrier, blocking the attack of the water column. But the dark energy barrier has obviously become weaker. Kong Xian saw the opportunity coming, and he also summoned Thunderbird and Flame Wing. The Thunderbird flies high in the sky, gathers electricity on its wings, and then releases a strong electro web. The Flame Wings release a whirlwind of flames. The two work together to attack the dark energy barrier. The electro web and the flame whirlwind collided with the dark energy barrier, immediately causing a violent 183 explosion, and the dark energy barrier burst apart. Now, Kong Xian shouted. Yuang understood his intention instantly, and she summoned the crystal dragon to attack again. This time, the water column successfully hit Yihen, knocking him back several meters. Yihen's face darkened, his eyes full of rage and unwillingness. Do you think you can defeat me like this? Kong Xian did not answer. He knew that the battle was far from over, and was more concerned about what the powerful Pokemon would do next. The powerful Pokemon's eyes moved slightly, seemingly quite satisfied with the cooperation between Kong Xian and Yuang. Yes, your strength and tacit understanding are both commendable. Chapter 266. The secret method is closely related. Kong Xian was shocked. He looked at the 4 elemental gems in his hand, then at Yuang and his Pokemon, and suddenly had a premonition. Since you all have coveted power, I will give you a chance. The powerful Pokemon changed the topic and pointed at the 4 elemental gems. Combining 4 into 1 is the ultimate secret method. Kong Xian and Yu Ying looked at each other, and both of them understood that this battle was destined to be closely related to finding the only secret method of Hisi. The powerful Pokemon waved its lightsaber, radiating light, then turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the sky. Kong Xian looked at the disappearing stream of light and knew that a bigger storm was coming. He said to Yuang, get ready, we have more important things to do. Yuang nodded firmly, and both of them had a common goal in mind, to find out the only secret method of uniting 4, and truly master the power of this world. Yihen gritted his teeth on the side. He knew that he had lost his best opportunity, but the war was far from over. He cast a look full of hatred and challenge at Kong Xian. Kong Xian looked back with a calm and profound gaze, and swore secretly in his heart that no matter what, he would protect the world and every precious life around him. And a few days later, Kong Xian and Yuang successfully returned to the Evergreen Pokemon Academy, but they soon discovered that the atmosphere in the academy was extremely tense. Walking around the college campus, they saw students walking around in a hurry with nervous expressions, as if something unusual was happening. Yuang frowned and said, Kong Xian, why has the atmosphere here become so tense? Something is wrong. Kong Xian also felt something strange, and he nodded. Yes, I feel it too. Let's go to the secret library of the academy first, maybe there will be clues. The two hurried to the secret library of the academy. This place was hidden in an ancient building. Only senior leaders of the academy and specific researchers could enter. But when they arrived at the library, they found a group of strangers trying to break in. A burly Pokemon stood at the door of the library, blocking the strangers' way. He whispered, this is the secret library of the Evergreen Pokemon Academy. No one without a pass is allowed to enter. Among the strangers, a man wearing a mask sneered, permission? The books here are permission for us. As soon as he finished speaking, a dark energy spurted out from his hand. Hitting guard that Pokemon. The guard barely resisted the attack of dark energy, but was obviously at a disadvantage. Kong Xian and Yuang hurried forward and Kong Xian said, "Stop. Who are you? Why did you break into the secret library of the college?" The masked man ignored Kong Xian's words and continued to release dark energy, trying to force the guards to give way. Although the guards tried their best to resist, the situation was not optimistic. King and Yuo's, Kong Xian decided to take action. He summoned the Pokemon in his hand, a wind Pokemon, which quickly attacked the masked man with the power of a whirlwind. The masked man sees that the situation is not good, hurrying to avoid it. The dark energy dissipated and the guards could breathe. The masked man became angry and looked at Kong Xian and Yuang coldly. "We are scholars looking for knowledge, and the books here are crucial to us. If you don't want to suffer unnecessary harm, it's best not to stop us." Chapter 267. Dark energy continues to rage. Yuang said angrily, "Knowledge can be shared, but your method is too tough. If you have reasonable requests, we can assist you, but we cannot tolerate your violent behavior." The masked man seemed unwilling to give up. He raised his hand and released dark energy again. This time the attack was even more violent. The guards and Kong Xian responded together, and the scene became tense. The dark energy of the masked man continued to rage, and the guards and Kong Xian struggled to resist under the pressure. Yuang's eyes flashed with determination, and she knew she could no longer sit idly by. She quickly summoned her Pokemon partner, an Earth Pokemon that glowed green. The Earth Pokemon exudes an aura of stability and solidity. It used its solid trunk and Normal's arm to block the dark attack of the masked man. Moonshadow followed closely behind the Earth Pokemon, and she said to the masked man, "We don't want to be enemies with you, but we can't tolerate your violence. Please stop and let us talk." The masked man's eyes wandered between the Moonshadow and the Earth Pokemon, seeming to be thinking. But his companion behind him became impatient. He shouted loudly, "There is no time to waste on nonsense. Get them for me, upon." Hearing the order, other strangers also released dark energy and joined the battle. Now, Guard, Kong Xian, Shadow, and Shadow's Earth Pokemon must deal with enemies several times their size. The battle intensified at the door of the secret library. Dark energy and the power of Pokemon intertwined, and the scene fell into chaos. Although the guards tried hard to resist, they were obviously at a disadvantage. Kong Xian also felt great pressure at this critical moment. A ray of light suddenly flashed, and a golden Pokemon from contest appeared on the battlefield. This Pokemon exudes a mysterious aura, and its eyes are firm, like a divine weapon descended from heaven. Both the masked man and his companions felt this powerful pressure, and couldn't help but stop attacking and looked at the golden Pokemon in surprise. Kong Xian and Yuang couldn't help but be stunned. They had never seen such a mysterious and powerful Pokemon. The golden Pokemon slowly walked to the guard and said softly, "I'm here, don't worry." The guard's eyes widened as he recognized the identity of the golden Pokemon. Are you the legendary guardian Pokemon?" The golden Pokemon's gaze seemed to penetrate the dark energy of the masked man. It waved its wings gently, and a powerful mysterious force swept across the entire battlefield. The masked man and his companions took a few steps back in pain, as if they were thunder-shocked. Kong Xian felt a little relieved, but he still remained vigilant. He looked at Yuang and the guard, and there was a hint of surprise on their faces. "You have no chance this time, it's best to leave," Kong Xian said calmly, looking from the masked man to his companion. The masked man hesitated and finally chose to retreat. He dropped a threatening word, "This is not over yet, Kong Xian." The figure then disappeared into the darkness. Only Kong Xian, his friends, and the golden guardian Pokemon are left on the battlefield. "Thank you, guardian." Kong Xian looked at the golden Pokemon with a hint of respect in his tone. "It is my responsibility to protect the Flame Continent." The guardian Pokemon responded calmly. Kong Xian turned around and looked at Yuang and the guard, and said, "We need to find a safe place to keep the synthetic gem well." Yuang nodded, and she summoned her own wind Pokemon, Flamewing, a Pokemon with wings as beautiful as flames. "Flamewing, take us to the secret treasure of the Evergreen Pokemon Academy." Chapter 268. Specially Made Magic Box. The guard also summoned his own water Pokemon, Dicke, a Pokemon whose whole body glowed with green water. "Dicke, we need your power to strengthen the defense of the secret room." The four of them fly to the secret room of the Evergreen Pokemon Academy with their Pokemon. This secret room is located underground in the Academy and has undergone multiple protection measures, making it difficult for even Pokemon to detect it. After arriving in the secret room, Kong Xian put the synthesized gems into a special magic box, and Yan Yi and Ida teamed up to cast a powerful protective spell. It should be safe this way, Kong Xian said softly, but those suspicious characters may come back, Yuang said nervously. Kong Xian also had a serious expression on his face after hearing Yuang's words. He turned to look at the guard and Yuang, a trace of determination flashed in his eyes. Yeah, these guys aren't going to let it go. In fact, I suspect it all may have something to do with our experiences in the maze. The guard frowned. Experiences in the maze? You mean those mysterious imprisoned and unsolved mysteries? Kong Xian nodded and took a deep breath. Yes, the power that exists there is very attractive to many people. I decided to personally come forward to find out the truth of the matter. Yuang frowned and said worriedly, but now that the 4-element gems have been synthesized, they won't let them go easily. It's very dangerous for you to go alone. Kong Xian glanced at the golden guardian Pokemon next to him and smiled softly. I'm not alone. After saying that, he turned around and walked to a corner of the secret room, touching one of the ancient magic circles. Immediately, the formation flashed, and a virtual magic water screen appeared in front of them. Kong Xian made a few operations, and a complex map began to appear on the magic water screen, marking the approximate location of the maze. This is information I have collected over the years. I plan to first go to these locations to investigate that may be related to the incident. The Garden Yuang walked over and took a closer look. Both of them recognized one or two of the landmarks. I remember this place. Yuang pointed to a point on the magic water screen. There used to be a large amount of dark energy leaking there. Kong Xian nodded seriously. Then let's start from here. The 3 of them and their Pokemon partners walked out of the secret room and arrived at the main building of the Evergreen Pokemon Academy. Kong Xian summoned his fire Pokemon, Red Flame, a Pokemon whose body burned like a torch. Please give me flowers. Xian, are you ready? The fire Pokemon Xian nodded, as if the flames all over his body became a little more intense. Kong Xian looked at Yuang and the guards beside him. He knew that this mission might be extremely difficult and dangerous, but no matter what, they had to protect Yanhuang continent and prevent the dark energy from succeeding. Zero Munage, guards, I may need some time to investigate and solve all this. During my absence, the Evergreen Pokemon Academy will be left to you, Yuang. And the guard looked at each other and saw the determination in each other's eyes. Don't worry, Dean. We will manage the college properly and ensure everything is safe, the guard said seriously. Kong Xian looked at them deeply, then turned around and jumped on Qian's back. Then, let's go. Red Flame flapped its wings and flew high, quickly disappearing into the sky with Kong Xian. Yuang and the guard stood there, watching him go away. Yuang sighed softly and whispered, I hope everything will work out. The guard nodded. Everything will be fine. We believe the director. Chapter 269. Buddha is communicating with Pokemon in the air. And at the same time, Kong Xian rode the fire Pokemon Qian soaring in the sky. The wind whistled in his ears, but it could not cover up his inner anxiety. Qian seemed to feel his master's mood. The flames weakened slightly, but they were still flying firmly. Soon, they came to the first location marked on the magic water screen map, Crow Peak. There has been a large amount of dark energy leaking here. Even the 927 mountain peak that usually does not attract much attention is now a bit more mysterious and dangerous. Kong touched Qian's back and gently touched the ground. The energy fluctuations here are obviously abnormal, he whispered, as if communicating with a Pokemon in the air. At this moment, there was a strange vibration in the air. Kong Xian was startled and immediately entered the alert contest condition. Who's there? He called softly. Suddenly, a black shadow flashed across his sight. Kong Xian turned around suddenly and saw several people wearing black cloaks standing in front of him. Dean. Kong Xian, it turns out it's really you. The 4-element gems are very rare, and we want to join in the fun, one of the leaders of the men in black said. Kong Xian frowned, knowing that the other party was not a kind person. Who are you? Why are you waiting for opportunities here? The leader grinned. Well, you don't need to know this. After saying that, he waved his hand, and several other men in black immediately summoned their own Pokemon, and dark Pokemon of different shapes appeared around them. Yan, are you ready? Kong Xian glanced at Qian. The fire Pokemon Qian nodded, and the flames all over his body burned a little brighter in an instant. Then, Let's start. Kong Xian and Yan immediately rushed towards the man in black. Fire and dark Pokemon battle fiercely on the top of Crow Peak. Yan continued to release flames, igniting the protective shield of the dark Pokemon, while the man in black used various complex spells to try to defeat Kong Xian and Yan. After a fierce battle, Kong Xian finally assisted Yan's power to repel these unidentified intruders. This is a warning. Next time, it won't be that simple. Kong Xian said coldly. The leader of the man in black's face changed. He knew that the other party was not trying to scare him, so he quickly left with the people and Pokemon. Kong Xian looked at the direction in which they disappeared, and felt no relief at all for repelling the enemy. The problem is more serious than I thought. These people are obviously organized and premeditated. He took a deep breath. Take a breath, and then summon a magical water screen. After a few operations, he established a connection with the Evergreen Pokemon Academy's library. Guard, Yuan, I encountered some unidentified people at Crow Peak. They seem to be here for the 4-element gem, Dean, so the leak of dark energy in that place is related to these people. Yuang's voice came through the magic water screen. It's very possible. Kong Xian nodded and asked you two to strengthen the college's defense measures. I'll look into this as soon as possible. Don't worry, Dean. The guard said seriously. Kong Xian hung up the magic water screen, turned around and jumped on Yan's back. Yan, we still have more things to do, and soon. Kong Xian and Yan flew back to the Evergreen Pokemon Academy. The ancient trees in the yard stood like guards, and the stone bridge and flowing water formed a beautiful scenery. But Kong Xian was not in the mood to appreciate it. He walked into the Academy's research room, which was filled with various ancient scrolls and magic instruments. Period. Chapter 270. Laying down multiple layers of protective magic. Dean, you are back. A willow-green wind Pokemon flew in front of Kong Xian. What happened? You look very serious. Kong Xian glanced at the wind Pokemon and said, Wind Chime, get ready, I need to conduct an important research. 117 Wind Pokemon. Wind Chime nodded, flew to the research table, and sorted out the scattered scrolls and bottles. Kong Xian took out the synthesized 4-element gem from his arms. It seemed ordinary, but Kong Xian knew how huge the power it contained was. He placed the gem on the research table and immediately placed multiple layers of protective magic around it. Ready, Dean, said the wind chime. Kong Xian nodded, and he began to carefully detect the gem with magical energy. The gem began to sparkle under his magic touch, and different elemental attributes appeared in turn. It seems that the synthesis was successful and there was no sign of instability. Kong Xian breathed a sigh of relief secretly. But what can this gem do? Feng Chime asked. Kong Xian began to recite the spell silently, intending to use simple magic to guide the power of the gem. A water column spit up from the gem and hit the opposite wall directly. The walls immediately froze. Then, a strong wind, a flame, and a boulder were released from the gem. It's very good. It can control the 4 elements. But if such power falls into the wrong hands, the consequences will be disastrous. Kong Xian said. Then, what should we do now? Feng Chime asked. Kong Xian was silent for a moment and said, First, we need to find a safe place to store this gem. Second, I need to study its properties more deeply to make sure there is no danger at this moment. The magic water screen suddenly lit up. It was Yuang and the guard, Dean. Several students found some unusual signs in the forest, which may be related to the man in black you mentioned. Yuang said. Kong Xian frowned. Okay, I'll be there right away. This gem. Feng Chime was a little worried. It is temporarily stored in a magic safe in the research room to strengthen protective measures. Kong Xian said. Feng Chime nodded and quickly stored the gems. Kong Xian quickly walked through the corridors of the Evergreen Pokemon Academy. Although his pace was steady, his speed was very fast. Whenever he walked through a place, the air seemed to freeze, and it was an invisible sense of oppression. Mooney and a stone-bodied Pokemon guard were already waiting at the edge of the forest. Dean, you're here. Qian gave a polite gesture. Kong Xian nodded and asked directly without saying anything more, How is the situation, Yuang? Showed a map to Kong Xian. Here, our students found 1,700 suspicious footprints and traces. Moreover, the animals in the forest also behaved abnormally, and some even disappeared completely. Kong Xian frowned and looked at the deep forest, as if he wanted to get a glimpse of the truth. Also, I received information from the Wind Pokémon Academy, Yuang continued. They said that there is an unknown force collecting similar elemental gems, but the motive is not yet clear. Kong Xian's eyes became more serious. The power of elemental gems must not be underestimated. If it falls into the hands of the wrong person, it may cause disaster. We must stop this. Yuang pondered for a moment. Dean, do you think this has something to do with the man in black? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271 Reinforce the Four-Element Gem. Kong Xian was silent for a moment. It's possible, but it's too early to say now. We need more evidence. Kong Xian turned to the stone Pokemon guard. Can you feel something strange in this forest? The stone-bodied Pokemon guard nodded slightly. Yes, Dean, I can feel an aura of chaos. It doesn't belong here. Kong Xian patted its stone shoulder and said, then strengthen the college's defense measures first. If there's anything abnormal, notify me immediately. The guards and Yuang nodded, knowing that the situation was very serious. Kong Xian returned to the research room and saw that the wind chime was strengthening the protective magic for the four-element gem. Dean, the protection has been reinforced. Wind chime reported. Kong Xian walked to the gem and used magic to sense it to make sure there was no problem. Excellent, you did a great job, Wind chime. Fing? Chime smiled. This is what I should do, Dean. Kong Xian suddenly smiled and said, you know, Wind chime, this gem is not just a research object, it may be the key to our fight against those unknown forces in the future. Fing? Chime looked at Kong Xian, and then at the gem that shone with various lights. So, what should we do next? Kong Xian turned around, faced the window, and looked at the starry night sky. We need more information, more power, and more alliances. But first, I want to study this gem in depth and see what kind of power it contains. Fing? Chime nodded. I understand, Dean. Kong Xian took a deep breath and turned around again. Time is running out. We must act as soon as possible. Kong Xian took a deep breath and turned around again. Time is running out. We must act as soon as possible. Just when Kong Xian was about to activate a new magic circle to explore the deep power of the four-element gems, the door of the laboratory was suddenly knocked 3 times. Immediately afterwards, the door slowly opened and 10 mysterious men wearing black cloaks broke in. Who? Kong Xian looked at the person with vigilance, and magic energy gathered in his palm almost instantly. Please be patient, Dean. The mysterious man took off the hat of his cloak, revealing a pale face. I have brought a message that you need to know. Kong Xian frowned and said, say. The mysterious man took out a delicate silver envelope from his cloak and handed it to Kong Xian. Kong Xian took the envelope and opened it, only to see that the handwriting was clear and used a familiar magic ink. The content of the letter shocked him. If you don't stop your research on the four-element gems immediately, it will cause an irreparable disaster. What does this mean? Kong Xian looked up at the mysterious man. I'm just the transmitter. You should know the specific meaning. The mysterious man said. Kong Xian's face changed slightly, and he suddenly felt uneasy. Who asked you to bring this information? I can't say this. The mysterious man walked towards the door. I hope you will make a wise choice by being ugly. The door closed gently, and the mysterious man's figure disappeared into the night. Kong Xian stood there with many doubts in his mind. Yuang also walked in from the outside at this time. He noticed the letter in Kong Xian's hand. What happened, Dean? Kong Xian handed Yuang the letter. Look at this. Yuang took the letter, and after reading the content, a trace of surprise flashed in her eyes. Who wrote this? Is there really such a risk? Chapter 272 Strengthening the Academy's Defense. Kong Xian pondered for a moment. I'm not sure, but we can't take it lightly. Then, what should we do now? Yuang asked. Kong Xian walked to the bookshelf, took down a thick ancient book, and turned to a certain page. There is an ancient legend that mentions something called the power of 4 elements, which may be related to this gem. Period. If this legend is true, then something tragic is likely to happen. Then, let's give up research now. Yuang was a little disappointed. Kong Xian glanced at Yuang and smiled. No, we will continue, but we must be more cautious. I need to find more information about this legend. Maybe there is a solution to it. Yuang nodded. I understand. What should I do? Kong Xian said seriously. Strengthen the defense of the academy, ensure that everyone is in a safe contest condition, and continue to monitor the situation in the forest. I have a hunch that things may become more and more complicated. Yuang took a deep breath. I will do it, Dean. Kong Xian smiled. I believe you. Kong Xian glanced at the ancient book in his hand and walked to the huge wooden table in the research room again. This table is filled with all kinds of magic materials and ancient documents, but the most eye-catching thing is the gem that shines with 4 colors of light. Huh? Kong Xian suddenly felt a wave of magic, and he stared at the gem at this moment. The door of the research room was lightly knocked twice, and Yuang walked in slowly. Dean, the mysterious man just now made me a little uneasy. Do you think his information is credible? Yuang said with a hint of worry. Kong Xian put down the ancient book in his hand and looked at Yuang. I'm not sure, but after all, this matter concerns the entire Evergreen Pokémon Academy, and may even affect the entire Yanhuang continent. Yuang walked to the window and looked out at the dark night sky. Then, should we inform other colleges and seek their support or warn them of possible risks? Kong Xian was silent for a moment. I think we should keep quiet at this time. On the one hand, the information is not yet conclusive, and on the other hand, if this matter is known by someone with ill intentions, it may cause greater trouble. Yuang nodded. I understand. Then how should I cooperate with you? Continue to strengthen the college's defense and always be prepared to deal with emergencies. I have a hunch that things will develop further. There was a hint of seriousness in Kong Xian's tone. Yuang nodded slightly, turned around and walked out of the research room. Kong Xian picked up the flashing 4-element gem and stared at it deeply. Suddenly, he felt a mysterious power connected to the gem. This is... Kong Xian was surprised to find that he seemed to have established some subtle connection with the gem. He gritted his teeth gently and decided to activate a small magic circle in an attempt to explore the deeper information of the gem. A magic circle formed quickly in his palm, and a force flowed into the 4-element gem from his body. The gem instantly released a dazzling light, then calmed down. Kong Xian's heart was shocked, and he felt as if he had seen a vague figure. The power of the 4 elements is hope and disaster. The vague figure seemed to be telling him. However, at this moment, the door of the research room was slammed. Chapter 273 The Coming Storm. Dean. A group of unknown people are trying to break into the academy. A young Pokémon teacher reported breathlessly. Kong Xian put down the gem and frowned. It seems that trouble is coming. Yuang also walked in quickly. Dean, I have deployed defenses according to your instructions, but these people are very powerful. Kong Xian stood up, walked to the window, looked through the window and fell on the group of black shadows. Are you ready? He turned to look at Yuang. Yuang held the magic wand tightly. I'm waiting for your orders at any time, Dean. Kong Xian smiled slightly. Then, let us face this coming storm. The 2 walked out of the research room together, and the door behind them was gently closed. The 4-element gem seemed to be trembling slightly, as if it knew that its owner was about to face a huge challenge. Kong Xian and Yuang walked out of the research room and entered the main building lobby of the Evergreen Pokémon Academy. A beam of light poured down from the dome of the hall and fell on a copper Pokémon statue, adding a solemn atmosphere to the entire hall. Dean, those unidentified people appeared in the forest on the west side. They seemed to be trying to break the defense barrier of the college. Yuang glanced at the magic crystal ball in his hand and said softly. Kong Xian frowned and thought silently in his mind. The forest on the west side was originally used for internal training within the academy. There are some wild Pokémon there. If they break through the defensive barrier, the consequences may be disastrous. So, what should we do? Yuang asked, with a hint of worry in his voice. Kong Xian turned to look at Yuang and smiled slightly. Don't worry too much. Since they dare to come, it means they are ready to face our counterattack. Prepare to summon your Pokémon. We can't let them succeed easily. Yuang nodded, waved her hands, and a ray of light shot out from her magic wand. Then, a Pokémon that looked like a combination of a fox and a rabbit appeared next to her. I summon you, Frosty Moon, to fight for me. Yuang said firmly. Shuagayu smiled slightly, then turned into a ray of light and flew to Mukage's shoulder. Kong Xian didn't show any weakness. With a wave of his hand, a phoenix-type Pokémon with wings like flames flew out and landed on his arm. Yan. Yi, are you ready? Kong Xian said to Yan Yi. Always. Ready, master. Flame Wing responded in a proud tone. Please give me flowers. Kong Xian smiled and nodded, then turned and walked towards the forest on the west side, and soon the two quickly passed through the courtyard of the Evergreen Pokémon Academy, passing beautiful fountains and exquisitely trimmed flower beds, and finally arrived at the forest on the west side. The forest is shrouded in a mysterious atmosphere and mist lingers. Moonlight shines on the ground through the dense leafage, forming beautiful spots of light. Suddenly, a commotion came from the depths of the forest, and then, a group of huge wild Pokémon with fierce eyes rushed out. It seems that they have controlled some wild Pokémon. Yuang held the magic wand tightly, with a hint of uneasiness in her tone. Kong Xian's eyes were cold, and he clenched the four-element gem in his hand. Then we have to deal with these wild Pokémon first. After saying that, Kong Xian raised his hand and waved, and the flame wings immediately turned into flame and rushed towards the group of wild Pokémon. Not to be outdone, Yuang whispered a few words to Shuangao, and Shuangao immediately turned into an ice arrow and rushed towards the group of Pokémon. Together with Flaming Fire and Cold intertwined to form a beautiful and deadly landscape. 1151110141831222180, Chapter 274. A thin layer of ice forms on the surface. The battle between Kong Xian and Moon Shadow's Pokémon, Flamewing and Frost Moon, and wild Pokémon is about to begin. In this mysterious forest, the power of fire and frost intertwine, forming a spectacular battle scene. Flamewing soars in the sky, its flame wings drawing a dazzling light in the night sky, rushing towards wild Pokémon like a shooting star. Its fire attack instantly ignited several wild Pokémon, making a hissing sound. They screamed 150 and rolled to the ground, struggling to extinguish the flames on their bodies. At the same time, Frost Moon controlled the power of frost and covered part of the ground in the forest with ice. Wild Pokémon stepped into the iceberg zone and were immediately frozen in place, with a thin layer of ice forming on their bodies, and their eyes filled with fear. Kong Xian and Yuang also joined the battle. Kong Xian holds the four-element gem and releases powerful elemental power to repel a group of wild Pokémon. Moon uses magic to provide cover for their Pokémon to ensure they don't get hurt. However, the number of wild Pokémon is huge, and they keep coming, and the situation becomes more and more serious. Sweat was already forming on Yuang's forehead, and all the magic power in her body was being consumed. Kong Xian also feels the pressure is increasing. He understands that this battle may last for a long time, and they need more support. At this moment, a voice echoed throughout the forest. Stop. Following the sound, a tall, evergreen man walked out. He was dressed in a green robe, holding a wooden staff, and wearing a green leaf-woven hat on his head. Yuang suddenly showed a bit of joy. Vicedine Elson. The appearance of Elson significantly changed the situation of the battle. He held a wooden staff, and natural magic spread like emerald ripples, trapping wild Pokémon and weakening their resistance. Kong Xian and Yuang cooperated with Elson to repel the remaining wild Pokémon. As time passed, the commotion in the forest gradually subsided, leaving some suppressed wild Pokémon sitting slumped in place. Yuang's forehead was still covered with sweat. She wiped the sweat off her forehead and looked at Elson gratefully. Kong Xian walked to Elson's side and said with a smile, Deputy Dean Elson, thanks to your timely arrival, otherwise the situation might have been more dangerous. Elson nodded in response. This is what I should do, Dean. We have to protect the college and this forest. Yet this time, other Pokémon from the academy also arrived one after another. Seeing that the battle was over, they all breathed a sigh of relief, but there was still a nervous look on their faces. The academy is their home and no threats will be tolerated. Kong Xian decided to immediately summon the Pokémon from the academy to discuss the next response measures. They returned to the academy hall, and everyone sat together. Yuang reported the details of the battle just now to everyone present. It seems that those unknown people are very interested in the four-element gems. They even used wild Pokémon. Kong Xian frowned and said, we must protect the gems and not let them fall into the wrong hands. Elson said thoughtfully, Dean, I think we must not only defend, but also take the initiative. If we can find those people's lair and destroy it, we can weaken their power. After the words fell, Kong Xian nodded slightly. Period. Chapter 275. Casting Modeled Shadows. Yuang added, at the same time, we can also investigate who is so interested in gems and what their real purpose is. Kong Xian nodded and agreed with their suggestion. Then, We will be divided into several groups. One group will continue to strengthen the college's defense, one group will be responsible for investigation, and the other group will go to possible nests to search. We must act carefully and not be reckless, everyone. Agreed, knowing that in the face of unknown threats, only unity and cooperation can lead to victory. After the meeting, each Pokémon devoted themselves to their own tasks. Some have strengthened the college's defensive boundaries, some have begun intelligence collection, and some are preparing to set off for possible nests. 14 Kong Xian and Elson stayed in the hall and continued to discuss specific action plans in the college hall. Kong Xian and Elson sat quietly at a long table, with thoughtful expressions on their faces. The atmosphere in the hall is dignified and solemn, and the moonlight outside the window shines on the ground, casting mottled shadows. Kong Xian first broke the silence. Elson, we need to formulate a detailed action plan to ensure the safety of the gym while identifying those who are so interested in it. Elson nodded. Yes, Dean. First, we need to send a strong defense team to guard the academy and gyms. I will personally lead this team. Kong Xian agreed. Well, you are the most suitable candidate. In addition, we need an intelligence team to investigate those unidentified people in depth and find out their lair and true purpose. Yu Ying. Volunteer to join the intelligence team. I will personally lead the intelligence team and try my best to obtain useful information. Kong Xian nodded and expressed his gratitude to Yu Ying. Yu Ying, you have always been our college's right-hand man. I believe you will do a great job then. Kong Xian continued. As for the mission of searching the nest, we need a brave expedition team. They must be prepared to face unknown dangers. Elson proposed. I know a suitable expedition team. They have experience and determination. I will organize them myself. Kong Xian nodded and said with satisfaction, very good, Elson. We must remain highly vigilant and not take it lightly. Once we have new information, we will notify other teams immediately. At this difficult moment, the Pokémon unite closely and are willing to make every effort to protect the academy and the gyms. The future of this Yanhuang continent depends on their tenacity and wisdom. Soon after, the three teams began their respective tasks. The defense team strengthened the college's defense barrier to ensure the safety of the gems. 473. The intelligence team conducts secret investigations to collect information about those unknown persons. The expedition team bravely entered the depths of the forest, searching for possible lairs. In the expedition team, there is a young Pokémon named Ellie. She has long hair that shines with green light and is good at manipulating the power of plants. Her Pokémon partner is a Pokémon called Greenleaf, which has all kinds of wonderful plants growing on it. Elson said to Ellie, Ellie, you have to be careful. This mission may be full of danger. Ellie nodded and responded firmly, I understand, Vicedine. We will do our best to complete the task. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.